Here we go on this Friday. Real Kyper and Bourneless. Or should I change that? Real Kyper and Sammy.
Hi, Kippy. What's up, buddy?
No Justin Bourne today, as we've got him on family assignment today.
Yeah, we sent him packing. I don't want to talk about the details in case anybody's listening, but yeah.
Top secret stuff,
Yeah.
but just me and Sammy and Derek Brandeo and Jake the Snake Schultz with you for the next 2 hours. Of course, we go Leaf edition first as we tee up Toronto and Detroit tonight in the Hall of Fame game. Saturday night, Toronto Maple Leafs against the Montreal Canadiens. Both those games minus Auston Matthews, as he is officially now on the IR, which would kind of be retro to
November 3rd.
going back. Not a big deal.
So eligible to come off next Monday. So this Monday. So he would be eligible to play against the Ottawa Senators on
You
Tuesday
know
night.
who else is eligible to play?
Who?
Connor Dewar, because of this.
Oh, yeah. That'll, we're both going to the game tonight. That'll really fill in the gaps for Auston Matthews.
bit
Connor
of
Dewar
a-
getting back in the lineup.
But at least they have him.
Yeah,
Prior to
for
that,
sure.
they would have to make some roster decisions to move him in.
Yeah.
This is an easy way to get him in if you need him without upsetting the roster or the salary cap.
Before we get into that, I wanted to say I was skating today at the Eric Lindros Celebrity Classic for Easter Seals.
Yes.
I played with the Sportsnet team.
Yes.
We had, Gazdick was on the team, Ailish, Justin Cuthbert, Ron MacLean.
If I wasn't so old.
Your former North Bay Centennial teammate, Troy Crowder, was our pro.
So he's the toughest guy in the tournament.
Yeah, and he told us the story about how he was the guy that have another donut. That was the clip was about. He was involved with
Kowarski.
And what was the coach's name? I can't remember the coach's name he was telling, but it was
Jim
funny.
Schoenfeld.
Thank you. Anyways, I only played one game. I had to leave and come to the show in the second game. But the first game we played against a lot of the guys that play in Eric Lindros' skate.
Thursday mornings.
Skatey 8? That's what their team name was?
Johnny.
I don't know who the hell these guys were, but buddy.
Kevin.
We got sales guys and me out there. These guys are doing 3-touch breakouts through the neutral zone. This guy had hair that must have been down to his...
Johnny, my buddy Johnny.
Oh my God. This guy was buzzing. I couldn't believe it. I felt like an idiot. Like I couldn't get near the puck. Like I'm not great at hockey.
And he's ripped too, Johnny?
Ripped, huge. And I'm not good at hockey. Let me put that out there. But I felt like I was learned to skate out there. I couldn't get a sniff.
So every Thursday morning, I cannot leave the room either getting dressed or after leaving without giving Johnny like one or two Mark Messier stories. China Club and all of it.
Anyways, good hockey player. We had fun. But I think they ran it. I think it was 6 or 7-2.
Yeah.
We barely touched the puck. Gazdick scored a goal for us at least. So the former NHLer put one in for us.
Well,
there you go. It was fun. What an event. I think there was 14 teams up there.
Always a great event.
He came out. Eric Lindros
Easter Seals.
Yeah, Easter Seals. Eric Lindros came out for our team. Got a couple pictures with him. Saw how big he is on the ice.
The very big E.
The very big E. It was awesome. It's an awesome event. So good on Eric Lindros. Good on Easter Seals. It was a blast up there.
Awesome. We've got a terrific show lined up for the next 2 hours. And real soon we're going to bring in JD Bunkis, co-host of Leaf Talk with you after every game. I'm sure I'll just ask him how he's doing and then get another word in the next 20 minutes. But just note at 4:30, we're going to welcome in Nazem Kadri as well. The book is Dreamer, My Life on the Edge. And here it is right here. And played last night against the Boston Bruins.
Scored a beautiful goal.
They lost in overtime.
Yep.
But they're settling in nicely in Buffalo as they prepare to play the Buffalo Sabres tomorrow. But he's going to come on and talk about his book a little bit. And for Leaf fans, for our Leaf Hour, it's an incredible read. It really is. And what's so unique about it is that guys wait to the end of their career to write this stuff. This guy wrote it all, and he's still playing.
Interesting.
So I want to get into that. And, of course, it's an official Off the Rails Friday, which means Doug MacLean comes back. Now, I don't know if you've ever sat in that chair and asked him questions or not. So
I've never. He's going to make fun of me the entire time. I already know it.
How can he not?
Yeah, no, that's
can he not? But in the meantime, let's make fun of our first guest. Let's bring in
Hey,
JD
buddy.
Bunkis.
What's going on?
Boys, how are we? Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief.
No. Listen, if it's brief, it's not you. I want
Okay.
you to be you on our
All right.
show.
I don't know how to be anybody else, so you're all right.
So let me start with asking both of you guys this. Is Auston Matthews injury prone? Is he like handy? When you think of Auston
No.
Matthews, do you think
No,
of him as an
not
injury
yet.
prone guy?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
No.
Okay. No,
But
neither?
you have to go through a series. You have to go through a process to get there.
Mhm.
And, a couple more of these, and we've got a different conversation. How's that?
Okay, I'm just looking at his games played. Like, he's missed a lot of games over his career, looking at the list on it of his games played here. I just don't, it's something that I'm starting to think about more because it seems like every single year, even when he does play, there's always a stretch of games where it's like he's banged up, he's not feeling right. Maybe it's just more me, but what do you think, bud?
No.
No?
I think
Yeah.
that injury prone is when a guy takes a hit and you hold your breath. Right? Like when something like, and this is not a shot, but Sammy, how often do you and I watch games together? And when Joe Wool goes and makes an awkward looking save, we hold our breath and go, oh no, something's going to happen. That's injury prone. Injury prone to me is where it's like, it feels like something always happens. And so that's just not the case with Matthews. Has he missed some games? Absolutely. Is the record one of the weirdest things in Toronto sports? Absolutely. I think there's probably like a greater conversation there, but no, I think of a guy who's injury prone where whenever you hear that he's on the injured list, you roll your eyes and you go, oh my God, this again? Like that's an injury prone guy to me. And I've never felt that way with Matthews.
Okay.
And there has to be something to be said that they are going to be over cautious with this guy.
Absolutely.
And that, like, it's a bigger picture here is that we don't care anything about your numbers. We don't care about you hitting goals we're past that. This is about a process of getting you and the team ready for April.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to suggest that you're putting the cart before the horse in terms of will they make the playoffs? Will they not make the playoffs? They have the utmost confidence that they will. So it's about preparing you to be ready in April. And the only reason you're bringing this up is because of the fact that the tendency is to go like there is no injury. We didn't see him get hurt. He's not being carried off the ice. Mm-hmm. There's nothing for us physically to say that guy's hurt. It's like he's here and then he's not here. He just kind of disappears.
Yeah.
Much like in the playoffs, right? It's just like, where is he?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're doing it again. But
God, they love lying about it. It's just like he's day to day. He's day to day.
But it's true. He is day to day.
I know. Yeah.
But they're not lying. They're just not telling you what it is.
Okay, they're just.
But everything
they're
again.
not telling the truth.
Does it make you feel better, JD, that I tell you that everything I hear has nothing to do with his wrist?
Yeah, I would say wrist or shoulder, right? Because that was the actual
not his shoulder
early
either.
Concern. Yeah, so when he was younger, there was a real moment where I thought maybe he is going to be injury prone, right? Remember when, oh my God, dude, this market is crazy sometimes. And it's definitely partially our fault, like all three of us with a hand up for some overreactions. But do you guys remember when we were having like doctors on shows?
Yeah, we did. We've
like,
done that.
What's Matthews' shoulder going to look like when he's 28? Is he going to be all right? Is this degenerative? And so if I hear it's not the wrist, I'm thrilled. That's because, again, to get to kind of injury prone, I think of two things. It's a guy who always gets banged up. Like I said, the hold your breath. Oh my God, it's always something. Or somebody that has an issue that's chronic or debilitating. And Kyper, like, this is better than anybody. Like you start to lose your shoulder in this sport and it's hard to get it back. Not exactly the most physical player in the NHL, especially given his size. But yeah, if I know it's not his shoulder and I know it's not his wrist, I'm absolutely feeling much better about it. Like, of course, those are the injuries that you worry about get worse throughout the season.
So, JD, let me ask you, and I'll ask you, Sammy, that you guys have a unique show.
Thank you.
It's called Leaf Talk, and it's moments after a Leaf game.
Yeah.
And for those of you that really have no life, subscribe to it because it can be fun.
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah,
Like if you got nothing better to do, like go out with friends or sleep, right? Subscribe.
I always am wondering on Saturday night, I'm like, who are these people? Thanks,
But
guys. Jeez.
What is it like? What is it like to go in and try to analyze with the emotion of just watching a game and then going at it right away? I get to absorb everything I watched. Sometimes you'll make a few phone calls. And then you prepare for a show. You guys go at it like seconds after a game. And what I've seen so far this year is that we've seen two Leafs, one that's going to win the Stanley Cup and one that has no chance to win the Stanley Cup. So where are we after tonight?
Which one have you seen more of?
I'd say a split, in all honesty.
It's pretty close, right? Like, it's actually pretty close how Jekyll and Hyde they are. I can't, I try to watch as much of the league as possible, but they really do feel like the most bipolar team in hockey, right? In terms of one night, you're right, it's the Tampa Bay game. It's that Boston game we just witnessed. Or other nights, it's the Columbus game where you're trying to cobble together excuses and wonder what exactly happened here. They obviously, I think that they're perfect for sports talk in this fashion because you want to have a visceral reaction. You want to have, I like both. I like being able to collect your thoughts, Kipper. You know, I have my show as well. And I think I try to do that a little bit more when I wake up in the morning and I've slept on something. But to me, one of the things that I think we've lost a little bit in sports is that gut reaction, is that visceral reaction, is that like, oh, just you see something happen and you react to it and you say, this guy is a bum or this guy is amazing. And oh my God, the feeling that you are going to be a cup contender versus the feeling that, you know, your night is ruined by a team. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, we live in an era where we have more data, more information, more experts than ever before. And so to me, it's like, the thing that I really love about the show that I get to do with Sam is that you don't get to sleep on it. You do have to just kind of go with it. And is there like a million regrettable things that we have on the show? Yeah, of course. You could do like, I bet you if you did a compilation of what we were right about or what was overly reactionary versus like what was actually like really insightful and meaningful and worthwhile, there'd be one ledger much, much thicker than the other. But God, I think that's what's so fun about sports is that it is immediate, it is reactionary, and that's what really draws people to it. It's like, it's the best reality TV on earth. Nothing's ever going to beat it. And so, I love getting to be able to do it right away. It's hard. Then also being able to think about it critically later.
It's hard during the playoffs, though. I will say that. Like during the playoffs, where it's like I'm a fan. Kipper, the reason I get to sit here, the reason I've made it all the way here is because I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm passionate about the Toronto Maple Leafs. And after these games in the playoffs, like when we had to go on after David Pastrnak scores in Game 7 again, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what am I supposed to say?
But that's followed up on the will he or won't he Joseph Wall play?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways. So yeah, it's a fun show to do, and I think they are a good team, the Leafs. I think they're closer to like the Stanley Cup contender, but I think all teams have these lulls and all teams have these bad games, but there's just so much muscle memory with this core, and there's so much like built up where people have these preconceived notions about how they feel. So they're immediately like, oh, same old Leafs, same old this. But like their highs this year, they're still the only team that's beat the Jets. Like the Jets are 101. Their only loss has been to the Leafs. Yeah. Like it's just they've had great performances that I think they can build on. So anyways, that's to answer your question.
Kipper, don't you feel that way though sometimes too with this team where it's like they're almost hard to talk about because you remember having every single conversation about them already, like you are in this. Like you're like, oh right, we're doing this one tonight. This is the conversation of the jour. Like even as we get back to the Matthews thing with the record, I'm almost like, can you guys lose a bunch of games without Matthews so that we don't have to do the exact same theorizing of
Kipper
why
loves it. But Kipper loves the Matthews.
Of course he does. I know.
I grew up with two sisters who and my mom who watched their soap operas, Young and the Restless and Days of Our Lives. So,
AKA you watched it too.
The Leafs have been the longest running soap opera since 1967. So they're not short of storylines. They're not short of characters.
Yeah.
Right?
Lots of characters.
So that's all we're doing is just watching at times a soap opera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
that's
know?
exactly it.
So
Kip, I just finished reading Kadri's book. Like I know you got him on.
Yeah.
It was a good book. I really enjoyed it. I think you're bang on in terms of writing as you're still in your career. Like I can't imagine being so close to it and having that happen. But yeah, you read about like the things that he went through specifically with this Leafs organization as a prospect, as a young man, the scrutiny that he faced, like from his own organization, some of the things that you said that were said about him, to him, some of the things that were asked of him. And yeah, you are reminded of just exactly what this has been for, quite some time. The soap opera that is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into this with Kadri as well, but let me start with you, JD, because there's seems to be some different school of thoughts from people generally in Toronto that have watched this team over the years. And that is, it's one of the hardest places to win, or it's one of the easiest places to play.
What do you? Like,
I would say,
go ahead, bud.
And when I say that, I mean, you guys can lose. You can get knocked out year after year. There's still 18,000 people there. They're screaming. You're still gods, as Mitch Marner alluded to.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't matter. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. They still love you. You still get top dollars. They make a gazillion dollars. Who wouldn't want to play here?
Yeah. Do you think it's easier now to be a Toronto Maple Leaf or when you played?
I think it's all the same, to be honest with you.
So you lean towards easier?
It's just, no, it's not. It's just the same, and it's just an individual that has to deal with it as a player. It's like, what do you feel like? You're giving enough, or you need to give more? And where's your cutoff line? It's just, some guys can sit there and say, we can lose year after year in the first round. I still don't want to leave. I like it here, right? Yeah, they'll carve us up on social media, but I don't want to leave here. And then there's others, right? Like maybe a Tyson Barrie who will go, get me out of here.
Yeah.
I think the social media thing is the most important point that you made. It's just, I think there's two different worlds. That if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf, and you don't live on social media and you sort of go the Sidney Crosby route and have nothing, that it could be really awesome to play here. Because generally at the arena, you're not getting booed a ton. Once in a while, there'll be a couple boos that you'll feel. And, you go out in public as a Toronto Maple Leaf, people are going to laud you. People are going to love you. You're always going to be like, oh, my God, it's Mitch Marner. Oh, my God, it's Auston Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But the second you go on your phone and you start looking at, your Instagram DMs, or you look at your Twitter DMs or whatever social media, it's probably not going to be as fun. So there's two different worlds to me when it comes to being a Leaf. And I think social media has totally changed it in terms of the visceral that they face. No?
I just think it's about the same thing that you said, Kyper, where it's like, it's personality type. There's clearly guys that thrive here and love it here, where they want the pressure of the big moments, right? Like the Darcy Tuckers of the world. They always talk about it where it's like going from playing in Toronto to going to other markets is just like completely night and day. And for me, I would just think that if you're the personality type where you want to feel as though everything has a stake to it, you're really geared towards, oh my God, this could be super important, that playing in Toronto would be great. If you're someone that just likes to, I would say, go to the rink, have a good time, spend your millions of dollars. You love being in the league, but it's not your everything. Like hockey is not your everything, but you really care about what people have to say on you. The media wears on you. Like we've seen how that can frustrate guys. Like I don't think that he wasn't necessarily for this market because he had a good career here, but think about like Phil Kessel at the end of his career with Toronto, right? Where media guys are coming up to him in his stall and he can barely handle it anymore.
This guy's an
like,
idiot,
God,
man.
And again, that's a worse time when it came to Leafs, but I think that you probably feel a lot of that frustration with some of the guys that have been here now and that have built up the loss after loss in the postseason. So to me, I think comparatively with what you see in Europe, with soccer teams, with what you see with some of the biggest teams in the United States, whether it's like the Philadelphia Eagles fans or the pressure that comes
Cowboys.
with being, a New York Knick or Dallas Cowboy, that it's not as big as we seem to make it in the echo chamber that is Toronto. But to me, it's like there's far more positives. You get to, I think Toronto, if you're rich, is an incredible, incredible city to live in.
Yeah, just ask Kyper.
And I was going to say, Kip, you tell us. Like,
Wrong guy.
Isn't it?
Hey.
Oh, yeah, no. Oh,
At the end of the day,
your free Mercedes.
hey, we're in the middle of the day, and I'm working with you guys.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Not that
Okay.
rich. Not rich enough.
Yeah, add to the pile. Like, listen, keep adding to the pile, brother. I think that, if you're someone that really hates scrutiny and hates the attention and just wants to kind of keep to themselves, that Toronto probably is a bit of a nightmare at times.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody who loves pressure, thrives under it, loves to feel like an actual atmosphere with your games, although that seems to be dissipating as it gets more and more corporate in those seats. As more of the Kippers are in there, eating their sushi, counting their dollars.
I'm lower bowl. I got to act like, I've talked a lot of crap on Leafs talk about bad fans. I got to be loud tonight. I got to be Johnny Leafs fan. Go Leafs,
Yeah,
go.
but then the usher's going to tell you to be quiet. That's the word of the street is that the usher pressures tell you to be quiet. But I just think that it's all about personality type boys. Like if in terms of is it hard or is it not?
Yeah. So if we look at the start that they've had and then the good, the bad, maybe even the ugly here, how important is this weekend against Detroit and Montreal to walk out of here with 4 regulation points or, getting the record to 9-5-2, or else if it isn't, are we still kind of asking ourselves, what are they?
I think we're going to be asking that question for a while, right? Like it's going to be probably up until the deadline before we start to have a real feeling of what the consistent impact is of Berube, his style. To me, the important thing for this weekend that I really care about is what does Mitch Marner look like without Auston Matthews? Because I think that you could make a pretty strong case that his best game was last Saturday. And there's a lot of people who follow this team, who watch this team, who care about this team, who comment on this team, that have wondered what it would be like if the Leafs would be better off spreading the talent around. And to me, it seems pretty clear that Max Domi is not a guy that should be playing on your third line, trying to drive a couple of players that are also not line drivers, that he looks awesome with elite talent and kind of disappears at times when he's down the lineup and has to have more of that two-way role or that more responsible role. So to me, it's are we going to continue to see this Marner, and does that inspire this coaching staff to start to think differently when Matthews returns? That's the big question of the weekend to me.
Love that. I think I actually I know this is crazy to say,
Marner away from Matthews.
I like them. I like watching them
without
the certain star once in a while, just to see how guys react and just to see how things look. And I enjoy when they play without Matthews. I don't want it all the time, but I think they play it's just a different game. Everybody plays different roles, and they look a lot different. Obviously, I want to watch Auston Matthews play, but I do think it's telling the way they play without him. So, and Marner I thought was brilliant against the Bruins. I thought he was unbelievable. So I think them separated is something that will always back to the well. We're talking about the things to talk about, but I think they're both good enough to drive their own lines. And then with a team that's kind of lacking depth in the bottom half of the lineup, it's something you'd want to do.
Yeah, but Kyper, I was listening to you talk about the power play and how you're like, hey, they're calling the shots here. Matthews and Marner, these guys aren't coming off power play 1. And I just wonder if the same thing applies to the top line, whether Berube, I hate saying it like this, but whether he does have the juice to say, when Matthews is back, he's not playing with Marner, when those two guys clearly since the beginning of their careers together have stated over and over and over again that they want to be together on a line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think if there's anyone you'd have to trust that if you're going to bring in this guy that's the Mr. Accountability guy, he can sit there and do it. Right?
When push comes to shove and you need a goal, you're going to put them together.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
You're right.
That's the bottom line. So where you feel those pressure points are between game 1 and game 82, you can kind of pick your spots.
Yeah.
You got to also give the team confidence that anybody can get hurt at any time. This guy disappears. You could play with him before. Remember in November, you guys were good. You felt good. Remember in January?
Yep.
Give them all those type of scenarios
the reps
over the course of a regular season. So when those surprises come and somebody disappears or has a headache or, just, hey,
there's a headache and has a party at his house to watch for game 3.
There's others. There's others that can pick up the slack and have confidence for it.
Yeah, we should go because we got to get to Kadri.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
JD,
Boys,
Leaf talk tonight.
Always.
We're back.
Yeah, of course. Jackie
Redmond. Oh,
Sammy's off.
I'm done. I'm Wally pipped.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah, you're done.
Every guy's be like, I got to look at you're an idiot. Now I got Jackie Redmond. It's going to be bad for me.
It's Leaf
You had
Talk.
a great run, brother.
Yeah, I know.
It's Leaf Talk tonight with JD Bunkis and our boy Sammy, and it's also the JD Bunkis podcast.
That's right.
All right, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks,
See you
bud.
guys.
See ya. Yeah. Jackie Redmond in my place tonight. It's a tough blow for me.
Yeah. You've lost your job.
Well, good thing I got this one, right, buddy?
So we want a few Kypers Clippers. Where do you want to go?
We should get a break, come back in case Naz jumps on with us so that we can be ready for him when he comes back, okay? So we'll come back, we'll see where we're at, and then we can play some
clips. Are you
clips.
acting like a producer
I booked the show.
JD's seat right now?
I booked the show.
Are you
I'm
more
hosting the show. I cut the clips. I do everything around here.
Are you more powerful than me?
No.
Okay, good answer.
No, not at all, bud.
All right.
I just sit here.
Okay, let's take that break, and when we return, we'll track down Nazem Kadri. The book is called Dreamer, My Life on the Edge with Dan Robson, and he's next after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Sammy. The Kypreos, Sammy McKee. Real Kyper and Bourne, Leaf Edition.
Yeah.
Waiting on Nazem Kadri to join us. Tough night for, it's a good point, I think, going into Boston. A place that has left Nazem Kadri disappointed on a couple of occasions.
Me too.
And you too?
Me too, watching games there. But
You're
listen,
not going to ask him about the meltdown,
no,
are you?
God, you nuts? No. Yeah, we want to live that together.
It is in his book. It's called Dreamer, My Life on the Edge. And it's out there now. Went to go get a copy of it, and my book was selling right beside it, undrafted.
I saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
There is nothing that seems more daunting to me than the process of writing a book.
Well, I can't believe that he did it, and did it like during the prime of his career.
Yeah, guy's still lighting it up. And he got time to score 30 goals and write a book.
It took me over a year to write mine. Yeah. All right, let's welcome him in from the Calgary Flames, Nazem Kadri, who's got a book out now, Dreamer, My Life on the Edge. It will be hot this holiday season. Naz, thanks for doing this, man. How you feeling? Travel to Buffalo after, albeit a good point against the Boston Bruins. So how do you feel?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. I mean, besides all the long travel and hopping in and out of time zones, about as good as we're going to feel. So, yeah, not bad.
And writing a book, and I went through the process, Justin Bourne, who's not here, went through the process, took me over a year to do it. Like, how about you? Like, when you were approached, when you thought about writing it during your career, do you wait after your career? How did you ultimately come to the decision?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different, unique situation for sure. I was approached by the publisher, Penguin Random House, to have this opportunity. They believed in my story, thought it'd be a great story to tell, and I never really thought much of it. But after that, the hamster wheel kind of started turning a little bit, and figured, it'd be kind of cool to reflect on my career thus far and just, tell some great stories along the way.
And did it take like a year? Were you able to do it in a few months, over a summer? Like how much effort was it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was relatively strenuous for sure. I can't say that I knew what I signed up for right when I signed up for it, but it was quite the process. I finished it. We banged it out pretty quickly. I mean, I'd say about 9 or 10 months. And got the audio book done in a couple weeks, which was a busy couple weeks for sure, but that's certainly worth a listen. I was kind of pulling my hairs out a little bit, reading for 3-4 hours straight in the studio. So
do you have an audiobook, Kip? Is yours an audiobook?
Yeah,
no audio.
No audio. I can only imagine the amount of takes that would take.
Nobody wants to hear
the audiobook was certainly a mental challenge. Yeah. But we got it done. It turned out great. Very happy with it.
That's awesome.
So this is our Leaf edition, Naz, of our show. So it's safe to say that the juiciest parts of your book are with the Toronto Maple Leafs and going from as a kid growing up to the London Knights and then coming in as a Toronto Maple Leaf. How was it in terms of how the decision to how deep you wanted to go? Like a lot of the stuff that we go through as NHL players stay behind the scenes and they don't ever really come out. You made the decision to go to certain places in terms of, how sometimes you were treated, how you were mistreated in all of that. How easy or how hard was it to reflect and go back to those places that at times, made you feel uncomfortable or frustrated?
Yeah, I mean, that's what writing a book's all about, I guess. It's a tell-all sort of thing, and involves some juicy details and some things behind the scenes that typically fans or media wouldn't really know at the time. But for me, it was a balance. That was a little bit challenging to, I didn't want to expose anyone too much, too dramatically, but I also wanted to tell my side of things and give some interesting stories along the way. So, um, for me, I tried to do it in a respectful manner, but one that was pretty blunt and direct, which and some, obviously, I made it very lighthearted and humorous also. So that was definitely a big challenge, how to exactly portray some of the situations that happen.
The one thing that I got out of it right out of the gate was like old school and new school. And, when it's all said and done, you thought you were kind of from the newer school where you get to express yourself. I love the story of you wearing your Beats headphones where, Brian Burke and some of the veterans wanted that thing off. And it's like, you didn't really understand why, but it's like, that's the way it is, right? And I'm just wondering now, if you understand it as you've gotten older throughout your career to the point that they were making, and was it a good point or a bad point, or was it just the fact that they never took the time to explain to you why it wasn't a good reason to wear headphones into the dressing room?
Right. I mean, it was one of those things where I was certainly one of the only ones to do it, and looking back on it, I understand why they possibly could have been frustrated. I mean, as we know, hockey's a traditional game. A lot of you're supposed to act and dress and do things a certain way. And obviously, I kind of didn't get that memo early on in my career, and it's a bit of a learning process. It's a learning curve. I mean, now you compare it to an NHL dressing room. There's like 4 or 5 guys wearing Beats
Does anyone not have headphones in pregame? Like everyone's got
around
headphones.
the dressing room. It's like, oh, whatever, just be ready to play.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't quite understand that at the time, but there was not really much pushback from me. If someone, one of the veteran guys or management told me, hey, cut that out, it'd be done the next day.
So yeah, we're mentioning the least part of this book, Naz. How many times a summer, because you spend a lot of time around here, do idiots like me come up to you and be like, God, Naz, we just miss you so much here in Toronto, and oh, Naz, you were part of the worst trade of all time. How often do those two things come up to you?
So often it's not even funny. And that's extremely flattering for myself. It honestly, it never gets old. It never gets old. I still appreciate hearing that from the fans, and just kind of having that acknowledgement and that love. That's all a player wants, to have to be acknowledged for going out there every single night and just doing everything you can to try to win. And the great fans of Toronto certainly noticed and appreciated that.
So you're obviously very happy playing for the Flames. You guys have off to a great start, but do you miss it? Do you miss being a Leaf? Like, I know it's a different thing being a Leaf, but I mean, do you miss it?
I do. I mean, I really don't think it's for everybody, but for me, obviously, kind of my neck of the woods, team I've always grown up watching. Certainly do at times, but I am more than happy with where I am today, and the team I'm playing for, and the city and the fans that I play for. It's Calgary's been nothing but good to me. So obviously, I miss my previous teams, but couldn't have picked a better one to be on right now.
I want to read an excerpt out of your book where you talk about criticism, about being able to take all kinds of pressure and criticism, and that you should be tough. When I started in the league, there was a culture of trying to determine a young player's toughness and let's see what they're made of. But now we're much more aware of how damaging the kind of approach can be. Were you damaged at all when you left the Leafs?
Oh, I mean, you nailed that, Kyper. You nailed it, buddy. I think, it can be a little ruthless at times, and, I could, I always try to put, put on the other shoe and try to look at it from a different perspective. But, being, when you come into an organization, being an 18, 19-year-old kid, just basically, I mean, obviously, whether you're underperforming or not, I mean, being bullied is never a great thing. And, you face a lot of self-doubt, and you start to criticize yourself in a way. And if you don't have that, determination and that pride, and that commitment to try to, and that mental toughness to try to move forward, then it's probably not looking good for you.
In the book, you stood up to a bully, and you pretty much ended the bully in Babcock when you and Bozak confronted him on what he did to Mitch Marner with the list. And that was the second when I read your book, that's the second I knew Babcock was done.
Yeah, I mean, that was a slippery situation for sure. And I think, Babs understood he had made a mistake, and, apologized for it afterwards. But nonetheless, the kind of damage was done. But, for me, honestly, personally, everyone kind of harps on Babs and likes to get on him. But, I really do, think he was a good coach, and he made me a better player, and kind of, made me understand things about the game that maybe I wouldn't have under a different, coach. So, as whatever 3-4 years there, he gave me the assignment to challenge the other team's top lines every single night, and I thrived off of it. And I became a lot more, attention detailed and attention detail oriented because of him. I mean, he certainly went. He went about things sometimes the wrong way, but for me, I actually always had a good relationship with Babs.
In the book, you also go out of your way to speak very highly of Mitch Marner. You describe him as entertaining, a fun personality guy, a guy that everybody would want. Like, when you talk about his sense of humor and how funny and entertaining he is, like, the Leaf fans don't see that side of him. They don't get that perception of the way you describe him in your book and the way he's perceived out here in the market. And I'm just wondering, is that because he's felt over the years much like what you've gone through?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I don't think he's gonna act, the same in front of a camera or 10 cameras as he would, sitting in my living room. So I think, it's a bit of a touchy subject, because I mean, the fans obviously have to pick somebody to get on, and it's always going to be the guys making the most money. So that's always things I talked about it in the book, that I saw happen to Dion and Phil. It was always, they're kind of the scapegoats to anything that went wrong. But I've known Mitch for a long time, and I've watched him play for a long time, and he's a guy that I'd take on my team any day of the week.
And underappreciated here, still in your eyes, maybe?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's he's the heart and soul of that team. And without Mitch, I think, things wouldn't be as good.
I got to ask, how fast does it go, Naz? Because I'm looking at your hockey DB here, and I've been a Leaf fan my whole life. I remember when you were drafted, I was excited about you being drafted. And I look back, in your first year you played one game in 2009, and then 2010, 2011. And that just feels like yesterday. Like, how fast does it go, man?
That's the thing. It flies by, man. It feels like the older you get, the faster it goes too. And, I was always the guy, when I was young, I'd have the veterans be like, hey man, enjoy it.
Yeah.
It goes by fast. And it's a cliche that couldn't be more correct. And I was always like, man, I got I got years left. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm 21. I'm good. So, looking back on it now, just the relationships I've made and the people I've met, and just a lot of gratitude going through this book and reflecting on my career thus far, and lots left still to tell, but very happy with where I am today in my career, and very thankful I even have the opportunity to do what I love to do every single day.
So now you're the old guy telling them to take, you better take it and enjoy it. It goes fast.
Exactly. That's hockey. It's a revolving door. It's just an ongoing circle.
Yeah.
You do paint an amazing picture of external and internal pressures of playing in this market. We just had a conversation earlier, Naz, in terms of, is it an easier place to play or the hardest place to play in this market? Because as Mitch has alluded to, and this is a guy that's only won one round, and we haven't seen a Stanley Cup since 1967, but he says you get treated like a god here, and you do. And I've lived it myself. But is it the hardest place to play in the league or the easiest at times?
Oh, cannot be the easiest. It's far from easy. Let's just put it that way. But Mitch is right though. If you embrace it and you want to step up to the plate and you want to step up to the challenge, and you're winning games and putting everything you got into every single game, fans notice that. They acknowledge it, like we spoke before. And when you're getting W's, there's no better place to play, without a doubt. But if you're not, and you underperform, you're going to hear about it, and you're going to hear about it from, 100 people. So it's, it goes both ways, but, you always got to take it with a grain of salt. And it was always something that I embraced.
It's funny that just to think about that playing here and how hard, how easy it can be. I can only imagine. I got to ask you, this is a Dumbo question here, but how great did it feel to score an overtime winner in a Stanley Cup playoff game? How'd that feel?
That was, that's got to be a highlight of my career. I mean, for sure. That's something that, I'll never forget. And, for it to be in a Stanley Cup final in an overtime game.
They didn't know it went in. They didn't know it went in.
And obviously the controversy that comes with it. It's just, that was just a perfect storm all in one, with one hand after, 13 days after surgery when I was supposed to be out 8 or 9 weeks. The doctor said, "Hey, I don't think you're coming back." I said, No, I don't think you're right. So didn't really take much medical advice at that point. I was coming back regardless.
You mentioned a couple of movies in your book that you referenced to. One that you didn't that I often do is called Sliding Doors. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a guy that jumps on a subway and how his life changes.
Good movie, actually.
If he makes the subway and the doors don't close, or if they do close on him, and it takes you both sides of it. And I'm just wondering your sliding doors moment as a Toronto Maple Leaf, and where it was, and of course, somehow, some way, whatever happened to you as a Leaf led you to a Stanley Cup, and I know you'll never change that for a million years, but was there a sliding door moment for you as a Leaf, either a suspension or, you talk about the bender, you went out the night before and then President Brendan Shanahan had to suspend you for 3 games. Do you look back and say, yeah, that's when it ended for me here in Toronto?
Obviously the suspensions didn't help, right? That was kind of the last straw, and that was unfortunate how it ended, but it's any young player will tell you this. Towards the end of their career or midway through their career, they it's a learning process. Playing in the NHL, you can't assume that some 19, 20-year-old kid is just going to come in the league and know the ropes right away. You got to, they learn from veteran players, they learn from experience, and then that's how they adapt and adjust to that situation. So for me, obviously the end of my tenure was, the playoff suspension, but, up until that point, I felt like I always brought my best in the playoffs. Obviously, I regret some of those things that happened, but, it's made me who I am today. Faced a lot of heat for it. And, I was accountable for every single thing that happened. And, I wish it was different, but, I've been a guy that's, always, performed, better under pressure and better in the playoffs. And, I look to continue that.
One more reference for me, and I'll let you go, I promise. And that was the Bull Durham one, where there was a Leaf coach or a manager, or I don't know who, but wanted you to watch Bull Durham because of the lessons of a veteran and a young kid. And you refused to watch that movie.
I've never seen it.
Out of spite, correct?
That is factual. Yep, that's a movie that's been boycotted for the rest of my life, probably. I've heard it's an absolute tremendous flick.
Yes. Yes.
I've heard nothing but great things, but that you'll never see me watch that movie.
Yeah.
Care to share us, who recommended it to you? What movie critic on the Leafs?
Nope, you're not getting me there, Kyper.
No.
But I will tell you that they did in the book, I'd mentioned they read me a list of first-round busts before they gave me that movie recommendation. So you tell me how you'd feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably a
For
crappy
sure.
movie anyway.
For sure. And the other one I got a kick out of it was that, was it Babcock and Lou in your living room? And just
and Mark Hunter, I believe.
And
I
Mark
think all
Hunter.
3 of them were there, just
And-
cozy on my sofa.
and trying to figure out what to feed them or give them as
Oh my God, what a nightmare, dude.
Yeah, that was my mom's duty. She was dialed in that day.
Oh,
She
thank
was
God.
focused.
So-
she was focused. So she was buzzing in the kitchen, making them whatever they needed.
So my the late Brian Murray, head coach of the Washington Capitals, came and met my mom and dad, and my mom wanted to give him like these Greek cookies. They're called koutabiedes.
Okay.
And they're
Easy for you to say, pal.
It's all white sugar, and I'm like, Ma, you give him that, he's gonna look like he just snorted a pound of cocaine. Get that cookie away from him.
Hey man, it's a cultural thing.
It is.
When people come over, you're not gonna leave with an empty stomach. Let's just put it that way.
Hey, listen, really appreciate your candor on our show today. In your book, it's gonna be a top seller. We know that, and it's one of many coming because you got another book in you. Like you got a long way to go here.
Hey, maybe a movie, Kyper. Who knows?
You got who's playing you? You got it picked out. Who plays Naz?
I gotta do some research.
All right, pal. Well, we really appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Naz.
That's Naz Kadri, and the book is called Dreamer: My Life on the Edge, an inside look at the challenges of being an NHL player, especially one here in Toronto.
Yeah, that was awesome to get to talk to him. Real thrill. I will say that I was a staunch defender of him and everything that happened here. And he had his issues. He's a kid coming into Toronto, all the money, all the everything. But trading him was
One of the worst trades in history.
I said it at the time. I'll say it now. I just think about what they would look like with him as we would have had to pay him. They would have had to figure it out. I understand. Maybe he's not here still. But even for those 2 years that he's in Colorado, he's here. They have a better chance at winning the cup. And he goes there and he does win the cup. So
I'm reading the book, and the only thing I can ever do when I read stories like this is just envision where I was at his age and where he got challenged. I would have just curled up. I would have said, like, whatever you want, I'll do.
Yep.
And he was not like that. That's not the way he grew up. It goes into the first story about Brian Burke wanting him to live with a billet family out in Oakdale or Oakville.
Oakville, yeah.
And he had already had a place downtown. And he went out there for like 5 minutes, and then he's back in his apartment, in his condo downtown. And I'm like, that's some big stones right there, because someone caught him in his building. It's like, you shouldn't be here. And he goes, yeah, I'm here. And then Brian Burke calls him in the office the next day, and Brian Burke kind of waves the white flag and says, just show up and play hard. That's all I care about. And he got to live downtown. And I'm sitting there going, in my day,
Probably wouldn't have flown.
you could have billeted me with the Charles Manson family, and I would have lived there.
Yeah, really. No, that's
I'm like,
funny.
whatever you want, just let me play. And it's a different world with these kids now, and some of it's good, but some of it, can still hurt a guy.
Yep.
But you find that fine line, and the fine line led this guy to a Stanley Cup. His name's on the Stanley Cup.
Should have been a Leaf for life and should have won the cup here. That's the last thing I'll say.
For another story.
Yeah.
All right. Is our hour up
It's
already?
up. What an hour.
Way to go, Sammy.
Thanks, bud.
Doing a great job.
Oh, I appreciate that.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, it's Off the Rails Friday. Doug MacLean, head coach, also an author of Draft Day, How Teams Pick Winners. Coming up next. Plenty more to go here. Hall of Fame weekend on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Come on, Sammy. It's the national show, for goodness sakes. Get yourself ready. We are Bourneless today.
Listen,
No
Guys-
Justin Bourne.
like I said, I do a lot around here, and I had to do a quick wardrobe change in the back of the studio.
We are the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne is brought to you by Bet365. In a few minutes, we'll welcome back into the program, Doug MacLean, as he is now firmly settled in Delray Beach, Florida.
Must be nice. Feels like chilly out. I would like to be in Florida today.
I don't get the sense it's chilly down there either, because he put out a text a few minutes ago from, I think, a bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so we might be going way off. the
I
rails.
hope not. I really am hoping that's not the case, but we'll have to wait and see.
Hey,
So
what happened to Shesterkin last night?
5 on 12.
Yeah.
He's human.
Yeah.
Did the
up-
price drop last night on him?
I was going to say, the timing on that is peculiar. Where Weeks puts out that tweet with the eyeballs and the 11.5, and everyone's all excited about it, and they get starched by the Buffalo Sabres 5-1. He lets in a bunch. That's not pretty for him. So I didn't see that one coming.
Could still work for him and saying, when I stink, we're not even a playoff team
It's true.
against one of the worst teams.
It's true.
Right?
We lost to the Sabres. It's not a bad point. Not a bad point.
Hall of Fame weekend coming up. Toronto and Detroit. We had Jeremy Roenick on last night, which was
Awesome.
really good.
Awesome.
Really good. So we'll get Doug MacLean's thoughts on competing on a guy like that, because that was right in his wheelhouse.
And for me, the guy that going in that sticks out the most, well, Weber obviously had an unbelievable career, but Pavel Datsyuk to me was one of the more brilliant hockey players in my life that I've ever watched. Just in terms of, I'm in the era of the highlight era, watching like a top 10 of his goals. His highlight reel is amongst anyone that's ever played. Like, his stuff is unbelievable. Plus his defensive work. He's a Selke guy. What round was he drafted in?
Yeah, that was that mid.
What?
He's a mid pick.
I feel like it was later than mid. But anyways.
7th?
I'm just looking it up right now.
I don't know. Is there 14 rounds back then?
Yeah, that's true. There was more rounds, but man, I loved watching him play. He was unbelievable. He was a 6th round pick, 171st overall in the 1998 entry draft. I wonder how many 6th rounders made the Hall of Fame. That's pretty unbelievable. So yeah, I big fan of this class going in. Shea Weber, unbelievable for Canada too. So great class. And you're gonna go on Monday?
I am going to go on Monday. Yeah, I do like to go down there for no other reason than there's very few times this in the draft where everybody kind of comes under one roof a little bit, and not every team shows up.
Yep.
But most teams are represented at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Either general manager or president. Some coaches will come by for sure. Coley Campbell, of course. I was a part of the Stanley Cup team, which he was an associate coach, along with Mike Keenan and Dick Todd. Those were the 3 main guys behind our bench every night. So it's nice to see his efforts as a player, a Stanley Cup champion, and now as an executive in the National Hockey League be honored as well.
Did you get that message too in your ear about Doug?
No, I did not.
All right, I'm just having a couple technical difficulties with Doug.
That's always the case with him, right? And it's like it's usually just like press the mute button, Doug. Okay.
Listen, I'm not saying anything about it. The last time I said a senior moment about Gord Stellick, and you aired me out to him. So I'm not going to say anything about this one.
Yeah.
But I do get the feeling from yesterday, and I'll get your thoughts on this, that Jeremy Roenick going in and the way he feels and his relationship with the game of hockey and all the stuff he had to say to us yesterday. And if you missed it, go back and listen to the pod. It's an excellent interview from yesterday. I think it's got a pretty big chance to be a must-see TV situation with him doing his speech.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. After I went home last night and I thought about our interview with JR, I'm like, I'm kind of nervous for him a little bit.
Really?
I just don't know how much he wants to get into. Like he said, there's some stuff I want to get into. And I'm like, and he only has 6.5 minutes, I guess, was the number. And I think he's smart enough to maybe just give enough of a story without, taking it to a point of no return. But I don't know. It's JR.
You only go in the Hall of Fame once, Kippy.
I
you
know.
only get this chance once.
I know. All right.
Uh-oh.
a man who is in our Real Kyper and Bourne Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Let's welcome him in, Doug MacLean, former NHL president.
Dangerously deep V on
What's going on? You got the big pink T-shirt on right now.
Well, I thought I'd show you a little Italy. Jill dressed me up in Italy. She bought me a couple of cool T-shirts. I thought I'd go pink tonight.
You look good. You look good, Doug.
I'm going to head up the Ave a little later and, have some dinner and just try to relax. I've been preparing all day for this show.
Wow.
And,
most Fridays I build you up, and then I get Derek in my ear going, we're having technical difficulties. What is with you and technical difficulties these days?
My internet's out here at the condo today, so I have to do it on the phone. And they're saying, frame it up. I'm thinking, frame it up. I'm on a damn phone. How can I frame it up, Jen? I got it. You're on top. I've got 4 draft day paperbacks underneath my phone trying to hold it up here.
All right, you're doing great.
You look good.
Don't move. So, Hall of Fame weekend. We had Jeremy Roenick on yesterday. If we talk about certain players in your wheelhouse in the height of your days behind the bench, Jeremy would stand out as much as anyone.
Look, he was a good player, very, very good player in Chicago, especially. We played them a lot, whether, I was in St. Louis and later on Detroit and in Columbus. He was always one of the best players. He played hard. He played the game the way it was supposed to be played. He was mouthy. He was cocky. He produced. And I liked him as a competitor. I really did. I've been sort of waiting. He and McGillney, he's been waiting to get in. This was one of the proudest moments of his lifetime to get accepted. I remember watching the call when he got in and, him and Tim, the referee, talking about it. But it's great for him. And McGillney is the only guy that I'm sort of bothered about. I listen to everybody. Every year McGillney's name comes up, and I coached against him. I know how good he was, and he's not in. I don't get that one. And you've got Larmer. You've got some guys that you think should be in there.
Do you think that really depends on the power of the club pushing you? Like there's an ownership push. There's always people campaigning for certain players, and the committees get flooded, right? Got to take this guy. Like if you got some power behind people, does it make a difference?
Look, I'm trying to get a guy in the PEI Sports Hall of Fame.
How's that
how
going?
Much work how much? Well, I'm in, so I'm not worried about it.
But that's the most important thing in, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to get somebody in. It's a problem. Look, it's a big deal. It's a special thing. The guy I'm excited about, who I dealt with more than anybody in the NHL in my career, was Coley Campbell. He was a guy that, I talked to on a daily, if not weekly basis, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. And he was always there. And people say, Coley Campbell in the Hall of Fame. Well, he did a lot for the game. I was in Board of Governors meetings. I was in general manager meetings when Coley took control and really did a fabulous job, especially in the time when we changed the game, when the game actually changed, when the slashing and the stick work come out of the game and the free flow game come in. Coley Campbell was as responsible for that as anybody in the league, and he never gets mentioned.
Well, he did on our show just now.
Yeah, you mentioned him.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get it so they cheer for him when he goes in tomorrow.
Okay, so you haven't been on in a while. Anything kind of crawling?
I've been on just a minute. I've been on every Friday. What do you mean I haven't been on in a while?
Well, a week.
A week.
Okay. Lots happened in a week.
We're talking about 7 full days. So
the Leafs won a game. That was exciting. But look, I want to talk about Winnipeg and their start they've had to the season. One loss, is it, in 14 games? And matched only by the 07 Ottawa Senators. I got to believe that was Brian Murray coaching the Senators in 07, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And you know what? They've got the big guys going pretty good. Their top defensemen are going pretty good. But I'll tell you what, Nemeshnikov's line, that number 2 line, they made a decision to go buy Monahan and his contract and put Nemeshnikov in his spot in the number 2 hole with Ehlers and with Perfetti. And that has been a great line for them. We know they've got a great third line with Lowry, and we know they've got a big first line, but that second line was a hole. And Nemeshnikov has come in there and done a great job. Perfetti's got a chance to be a star. And Ehlers, in his contract year, he's playing for a big contract. They couldn't come to terms. That line has been good. And not only that, their top 4 defense you always love, the Morseys and DeMellos, and they're sort of Pionk. They're smaller type guys. All of a sudden, you got Stanley on the back end and Sandberg playing recklessly and banging people around. And then you got Hellebuck. So I think there's some subtle moves, new coach with O'Neill. And Chevy's done another great job. Another great job.
Is the lineup good enough as long as regular season Hellebuck shows up instead of playoff Hellebuck of the last few years?
I don't know if you got a chance to see the game last night. It wasn't even close. I mean, Colorado dominated.
I know, they dominated.
Dominated the game.
And he was Hellebuck was best goalie.
Hellebuck, does he? Yeah, he's got to make it happen this year. I feel for him because that's a lot of pressure being not getting it done in playoff time. I picked them against Colorado last year, and because Colorado's goaltending was so bad, and all of a sudden they were out goaltended last year by Colorado. That's hard to believe. So yeah, he's got to get it done. He's that good. But I like what Chevy's done, and full marks to them. They've had a heck of a start, and I didn't think they would. I really didn't. This caught me off guard.
Yeah, but they're a very similar conversation to the Leafs to me. That they've always had great regular seasons, but they have a lot of problems in the playoffs, and I think it's Hellebuck. Go ahead.
Look, I got to be careful what I say on this show because last week I brought up Nashville, lost their identity, and it went worldwide. That's all anybody talked about all week was Nashville. So you know what? I don't want to set the tone for the league every time I come on here.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Well, all right. And so is Nashville their latest loss? Okay. They're going to rebuild now, Doug? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah. They did too much rebuilding this summer.
Okay. That's good.
All right. So let's go right into your wheelhouse of coaching here because this week between Boston's Montgomery and then Tortorella benching his Russian phenom. Mishkov, like those are some bold decisions. Let's start with Boston first with Montgomery, and my good buddy here who's not here today, Justin Bourne says, listen, star players or no star players, you gotta just march to the same drum of we're treating everybody the same. And I've told them that some of the stars that I've played with don't feel that same way, and I'm just wondering with Montgomery. The benching of Pasternak, like, does he flirt with his job security when you start going at those top stars?
First of all, there's no sense talking about Tortorella because Torch is Torch. He's going to do what he wants. He's going to, if it's not Frost, it's the kid. If it, it's always somebody, and so. There's no sense even talking about him. He's not going to change. It's a waste of time. They got a win last night, which was great. They beat Tampa, which I can't figure out how. But anyway, there's no sense talking about him. But Montgomery, like somebody give Jimmy Montgomery a shake and wake him up.
I agree, man.
Jimbo, Pasternak is your best player. And who in their right mind puts their best player out there to the hockey world sitting on the bench for a full period? Like, come on. We used to get mad at Yzerman in Detroit because, some games he wasn't a superstar like he always was. But listen, this guy, I used to say to Brian Murray, Brian, if you sit Stevie Y out one power play, that's like sitting him out for a game. If you tell him he's not going out on a power play, that's the same as sitting a third liner for a whole period. he would snap. He would lose it. But I'll tell you what he did to Pasternak when his job's on the line, and I know last week people were chirping me because I said Nylander should talk to the coach instead of the media. I love when they chirp me, by the way. I never get chirped anymore. I kind of like it. But Jimbo, your job's on the line. He's your best player. He's a quality guy. The players on the team love him. And you think you're sending a message? No, I'm sorry, you're not. You're not sending a message. Pasternak, sit him out a couple of shifts. It's the same as sitting him out a period. And you don't have all the hoopla.
We know where that bar's been set for Boston all these years. They're like not even close right now. So what would you do if you're Montgomery to get these guys going? Because they sunk a lot of money in this summer.
They might not just be with, they might not be very good.
Zadorov and Lindholm.
Like somebody said to me, they thought Zadorov could be Chera. Like no scout said that, did they?
I hope not.
No, nobody ever said that, did they? That Zadorov could be Chera?
He's really struggled.
He has struggled big time. Look,
took another penalty last night.
Full marks. I thought he had a hell of a Halloween costume. I thought that was his best move of the season. The Halloween costume was fantastic.
What was his Halloween costume?
I missed it too.
I don't know what it was, but he really looked good.
Okay.
And anyway, they all do such a great job. But anyway, look.
He's spending a lot of time on the internet, isn't he, Doug?
Jimbo should go in and talk to Don Sweeney and talk about their personnel because they're not good enough right now. They're not a good enough team. And that's their number one problem. It's not Pasternak. It's not Marchand. Toyle's got to be better. I get all that. They lost DeBrusk. They didn't like DeBrusk for 4 years, and now they miss him, although he's only got 1 goal so far, I think, in Vancouver. But look, they're not good enough right now. Forget about blaming Pasternak. And Jimbo should be worried about keeping his job. I like him. I hope he does.
Just to confirm, Nikita Zadorov was part of the Addams family for his Halloween costume. I know everybody was waiting with bated breath for that.
Yes.
So, you mentioned
that's exactly right.
There
exactly
you go.
Right.
You mentioned Yzerman in one of your answers there. Red Wings are in Toronto tonight for the Hall of Fame game. Where are we at the state of the Yzer plan, Doug?
The Yzer plan is pretty close right now to the Dougie plan in Columbus. It ain't.
No, come on.
Working.
Come on.
It ain't working. It's not working. That's how close it is. So Stevie now is getting very close in the management ranks after the amazing job he did in Tampa, coming into Detroit in 6-7 years now, not making the playoffs. They're getting restless. And Stevie now is moving into that realm as the same as all the other GMs in the league. He's got to get it done. There's a ton of pressure in Detroit. The fans are restless. The fans are restless. I watched them play in Chicago the other night, played pretty well. But they've got to get it going. And you think there's pressure in Ottawa and Buffalo and these teams? There's big time pressure in Detroit. They are restless.
Yeah, they are 7-5 after a win tonight in Toronto. Yeah. That's not bad for you.
No, it's okay.
No, but 6-7 years out of the playoffs is getting old.
Yeah.
So they've got to make it.
So who is your team right now? I know we mentioned Winnipeg, but outside of that, the Rangers, like if Shesterkin's given up 5 on 12 shots, are they a playoff team?
Yeah, they're a playoff team. Here's my team today. And I think I said this at the first of the year that I thought they're going to be the surprise of the league. Washington Capitals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the goaltender, Logan Thompson's come in and done a good job. The big guy from L.A., your buddy there, Dubois, has done a great job, has done a good job. Ovi's reinvigorated. They look like a different team. The kid behind the bench has done a good job. He did a great job last year. I looked him up the other day. This guy played at some college I've never heard of. And I know colleges in the U.S. I don't know what the name of it was, but I never heard of it. I think it's folded. Obviously, the college is folded.
Didn't he play with Bourne?
And then he played in
Alaska?
the East Coast League. No. Look it up. It's scary. I've never heard of it.
So he did play with Bourne in Alaska, but he played at St. Norbert College? Is that the one you're thinking of?
Norbert College. What the hell is Norbert College?
I hadn't heard of that one
either.
either.
Spencer Carver.
Then he goes. Then he goes to the East Coast League and played there for a bunch of years, assistant coach in South Carolina in the East Coast League. All of a sudden, he gets assistant job in the American League, head coach. And then he gets the job in Toronto, and then he comes back to Washington, and the guy's done a heck of a job. I've watched him with some conversations in the dressing room just on clips. I really like the way he handles himself. And he today is the coach of the year in the NHL. And this team is hard to play against.
Yeah.
They are playing really hard. So
You know,
it'll be fun to watch. They got some good young kids in the mix as well that they put on the team. So it's going to be fun to watch them.
and it's, tonight it's Sid and Ovi for, I don't know what the number of times they've played against each other, but Sid's 2 goals away from 600 here now. Ovi's chasing Gretzky clearly. Like, it's rare that athletes live up to the hype like these two guys have. It's unbelievable, Doug.
I missed Wayne the other night. He was down here. He was at the Trump Gala event at Mar-a-Lago. But I missed him.
Yeah.
I wasn't invited. But anyway, I was disappointed. I was disappointed.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Last time I met a superstar here, Lemieux, I didn't recognize him. But anyway, look, you know what? The kid I want to talk a little bit about is Bedard, and I feel for him in Chicago. Okay, I feel for him in Chicago. He's got 3 goals. He's an unbelievable talent, but with the way coaches and coaching is today, when you play the Chicago Blackhawks, there's one thing in your mind. We got to shut down this kid, Bedard. We got to shut him down. And teams, I watched him the other night, teams are really playing him different in the neutral zone. They're backing off. They've got it in their heads that he cannot beat them with because he's not that fast. Unbelievably talented, unbelievably a great young player. But they're backing off him. They're not standing up, and they're giving him a little more room. And you know what? They're shutting him down.
But Sid, Connor, Austin, like, you're the first pick overall on bad teams. You got to find a way to get through it. You can't be on a pace for 15, 16 goals this year. And on top of it being number 1, he's been labeled like a generational player here.
I know. And I'm concerned about his speed. I'm concerned about his flat out speed. And I know Gretzky wasn't fast. Sid was a great skater, but he was a powerful skater and a powerful guy. This kid is powerful, but teams are going in and they're really working him. And and they're physical on him. They're playing him hard, and they're not letting them beat them one-on-one by standing up in the neutral zone on this kid. So they're giving him more space, and they're angling him out. So it'll be fun to watch how he adapts like the other superstars have adapted.
It never feels like he's getting clean looks when you watch them play. Like,
right.
like when he was in juniors, whatever, but that's what his strength was, is that he just got clean looks, and he had one of the best shots you could ever see, and it went in, but just never gets clean looks.
But he also beat people one-on-one in junior, down through the middle. I mean, this guy, I remember talking to Brent Sutter about him for the book Draft Day, because he was coming up for the draft. And I said, who does he remind you of? Who does he really remind you of? And Brent told me Braden Point. That's who he reminded him of. That is who he was going to be. And I said, no, Brent, he's going to be a lot better than now. Braden Point's been a superstar and a Stanley Cup winner and but not a generational player. And that's who Brent Lycan said. That's who he was. He said, that's my guy who he's the most like of anybody I've seen. Interesting.
One more I want to get your thoughts on, and that's the Seattle Kraken, because they came out of the gate fairly well, and now they think they've lost 7 of 8. And Ron Francis went out and paid Chandler Stevenson a ton of money. He went out and gave Montour a ton of money, and just the pressure he could be feeling right now with the Kraken.
Really interesting. I was talking to somebody this summer about Chandler Stevenson, and they said he's going to be a bust in Seattle. He's not as good a player as we saw in Vegas. Complementary guys around him in Vegas were better, were big, strong guys, and they said he's going to struggle. And I don't know him that well as a player, but that's what I was told. And you know what? He's not $6 million? I mean, he's not close to that.
I think it's more than that.
I mean, crazy kind of, and it was not a snowball's chance. Not a snowball's chance Kelly McCrimmon was going there anywhere close to that money. He couldn't. and no interest. And Kelly's got the plug and play.
Yeah.
He loses somebody and he plugs somebody in. It's like unbelievable.
I'm still
unbelievable.
I'm still scratching my head on Dan Bilesma that they brought him back, and like this wasn't a coach that a lot of teams were racing to interview. I mean, I didn't understand that one when there's maybe other options out there.
Yeah, I don't want to get into their coaching staff, but, I think that Dan's a guy that had great success with a great team in Pittsburgh. He went to Detroit as an assistant coach. It didn't go very well. He ended up going back to the minors, and good on him. He grinded it out, and they had good success in the minors. And Ronnie France is a loyal guy, and he felt loyally to give him a chance. But I'm not sure. I think Danny's is a real good assistant coach. I'm not sold on him being a head coach.
Last one for me, Doug.
Again.
Last one for me. Keeping an eye on the Sens, clearly, because in the Leafs division and one of the Canadian teams. Did they trade Jonas Korpisalo and then sign new Jonas Korpisalo? Like, this Ullmark thing has not got off to a good start.
But like, so he loses 5-1 in Buffalo. He's going to be your guy. He is your guy. If you make the playoffs, he's the reason you're going to make the playoffs. Okay? Why not play him again last night? Why not come back with him again last night? Somebody explain that one to me.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I can't.
If he's your guy.
Maybe it's him. I mean, like we talked to Valley on the show about him playing half the games, and maybe it's him.
Maybe he's just a high maintenance guy. He's got to be perfect to play.
Well, then, I don't buy that. But I was caught off guard by that because I was excited to turn that game on. I wanted to watch them. I really like a lot of things Ottawa's doing right now. A lot of things. I like the way they're playing, but they can't blow that game.
It's a bad loss.
They cannot. That is a bad loss last night. A horrific loss. Now, Travis has been grumpy at the podium. I didn't stay up to watch him last night, but I'll tell you, he should have been grumpy. Just big mistakes. And anyway, I'm disappointed because they've got to make the playoffs. Talk about Stevie Y and the Red Wings and Buffalo. Ottawa's in the same boat. They've got to make it. And Ullmark's your guy. Go with them. Is he tired? Like, what is it, game 5? Is he tired? Jeez, what a joke.
I pull up the Atlantic Division standings, and I know it's early, and I know they're all bunched up, but second last there sit the Ottawa Senators right ahead of the Habs. It's like, oh boy, are we doing this again?
Oh, don't bring the Habs up. I talked about the Habs a few weeks ago, and I had buddies phone me they were depressed. So look, don't bring up the Habs. Please.
No Habs talk. No Habs talk.
No.
Is there going to be one? Is there going to be one Hall of Fame weekend? You and your T-shirt can maybe make a trip up.
This is a holiday. You know what? I didn't even go to the Hall of Fame events when I was living in Toronto. I used it as a night off. So. And it's not that I'm jealous because I told you I'm in the Brockville Sports Hall of Fame, Brockville, Ontario.
Yeah.
I'm in the PEI Sports Hall of Fame. How many Hall of Fames can you have?
That's too many Hall of Fames. You don't want to be in 3 Hall of Fames. That's too many, Doug.
You can't get in the HEPA Hall of Fame. I know that.
I know, but I've got a chance probably to get into the Canadian Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
I don't
know.
All right, Mac. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll say hi to many people for you. How about that?
Yeah. Listen, it's really been a pleasure to get on. I had a busy day today, and I really was looking forward to this all day long.
Where did you send your last text from? What bar?
The Sandbar. It's on the beach, just down the street from me. A great little sandbar, sort of an outdoor bar. And
how's the weather there today?
I had a mahi sandwich there. It was beautiful.
And
Beautiful
a cocktail. Day. Is that your ritual before every Friday you coming on the show that you have a sandwich and a stiff drink?
I had a mahi sandwich and the lightest beer I could get, a Belgian Blue Moon. Oh. Can you get a lighter beer than a Blue Moon? Like, seriously.
Blue Moon on the beach sounds pretty good to me right now.
Yeah, well, it takes a lot of It takes the
what?
stress away.
Oh,
Takes the
yeah.
stress
All right.
away.
Hey,
It really does.
Listen, no Justin Bourne today.
yeah.
How did my boy Sammy do with you today? Because we were a little nervous.
Uh-oh.
I was nervous that you were going to look at him and
Well,
make fun of him.
you know what? I didn't even notice Bourne wasn't there. I thought he was behind me. I thought he was behind me here on the screen.
I love it.
All right.
Love it.
Okay.
Sometimes you guys take yourselves just a touch too serious, and
No.
you just got to chill out, and I'm going to come with a big, because I was offered a new job today. A podcaster offered me a full-time job today, and I'm weighing my options. And if I do get it, I'm going to contact Jeff Merrick and get him to show me how he did all that stuff. The breaking it up and the excitement of watching those little clips.
I'm
going to try to.
No
I don't
comment.
know how the hell to do. I could hardly get the phone set up for the show, let alone do what Merrick did.
I like the sound of MacLean and Merrick.
Oh, yeah.
No. I'm not. I listened to Jeff for 3 years. When I was on with him, I'm not doing it again.
All right, Mac. Hey, thanks for doing this, pal.
Thanks, bud.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, guys.
All right. He is the one, the
It's
only.
our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Doug MacLean, former NHL president, GM, head coach.
Oh, my God.
And now we've got him.
I survived.
We did
I
survive.
survived talking to
Good
Doug.
job, Sammy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a quick game time before we hit the break?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Like I mentioned with Doug, Ovechkin and Sid going head to head tonight. Sid's 2 goals away from 600. Ovechkin is creeping ever closer to the Great One's goal record, which is hard to believe. Like I said to him, it's hard to remember anybody living up to the hype as much as those two guys have. It's crazy. I love both of these guys to score a goal tonight. Both in the game pays you plus 475. So give me a anytime goal from both Sid and Ovechkin. And looking at the Leafs tonight, they're a huge favorite, minus 200. I wouldn't touch that one, but if you wanted to go with a total, feel like there could be some goals tonight. Give me the over 6 goals at plus 100. And that was Game Time, Kipper, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Penguins and Capitals, one of 4 games tonight in the National Hockey League. And I got to think Sid's a little grumpier these days than Ovi.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at the way that the Penguins have built around Sid's sort of twilight of his career versus what the Caps did this offseason. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of jealousy there from Sid, right? Like what Dubas has done there, and he tried to bring in Karlsson and all the contracts they had already signed with the prior regime with Malkin and Letang. It's tough. Like he's looking at Ovechkin is his main competition. That's the main guy he's been competing with his whole career, and he sees him having this twilight. I'm sure he's jealous.
In our Leaf Edition hour, we had Nazem Kadri on. The book is Dreamer, My Life on the Edge. We talked about that being one of the worst trades for the Leafs.
That's my least favorite trade
Maybe
they've ever made.
I don't know, 20 years, 30 years since they won the Stanley Cup, arguably.
Well, they also traded the pick that became Scott Niedermayer. That wasn't very good either.
That was Kyle Dubas who did that. And then he goes to Pittsburgh and tries to make a splash with Karlsson.
You know what
and it's been a disaster.
And you know what I can always think of, and I know it's the National Hour, and I hate to make it about the Leafs, but that was a big-time rumor when it was here. When he was here, remember that?
Yeah, it wasn't a rumor. It was, I said it, that Kyle Dubas loves Karlsson, and he's trying to find a way to fit him here in Toronto.
Can you imagine that had happened here? Because it would have probably come at a cost of somebody else on the roster, right? You can't fit all that in. And anyways, we got to go to break, but if you're listening right now, text 59590 and give us your takes, questions, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
We're going to read them in the next segment. 590 text in now. It'd be great if who's ever, I think it's Jen up there, can get the thing up on there so we can get the numbers. 590 text in now. We'll read them after the break.
And we'll talk a little bit about Tanner Jeannot's hit.
Oh, boy.
On Brock Besser.
What was that?
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right, that and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. All right. Down the stretch we come, Sammy, on this Friday. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Kings Tanner Jeannot had a hearing for an illegal check to the head of Canuck Brock Besser.
Here, let me get you
That was
this.
a bad one.
Let me get you this. This is from our boy Ian in Ridgeville.
Yeah.
What is your guys' view on how many games Tanner Jeannot should be suspended?
Yeah. Well,
A few.
a few if Brock Besser's okay, but there's an injury here. How significant? And it's just not, it's Brock Besser. It's one of their stars. It's a bigger deal. So what could have been a 2-game suspension might have to be a 4 or a 5.
I got to say, I was rotten. Rotten, needless hit. And, Brock Besser's a guy that's had injury issues. And, I don't know what. Like, it's just, I guess it's a credit to the way they've changed the game or whatever. But these kind of hits are so jarring now because these things used to happen a lot. These borderline bad hits where guys would hit up high was all the time.
He didn't know where he was.
Didn't know where he was. He just hammered him. So I would say anywhere in the 4 to 5 range would be an acceptable suspension
honestly,
for me.
I was waking up to might be a in-person hearing.
Yeah. That's fair. It was a really bad hit.
It was a bad hit.
Yep. Anyways, I got a bunch of texts. Do you want to do text?
I do want to do text.
Okay. So we were talking about trades and the worst trades. William from the Highway. On that theme, what are the worst trades you can recall in the league in the past 15 or 20 years?
What are you doing? Like, give me an A, B, C, or D.
Okay.
Don't make me work on a Friday
Okay.
when I'm like, I don't know, 40 minutes for my first cold one.
Yeah. Okay.
Give me some, okay.
How about, here's one that doesn't get talked
We
about a lot.
gotta,
How about Marty Erat to the Washington Capitals for Philip Forsberg?
Yes. As soon as you mentioned that name, right away, I knew Philip Forsberg.
Yashin for Chara. Yashin from the
At least
Isles.
Yashin. Okay, like here's one recently where I'm shaking my head again is like whatever for Sam Reinhart,
Yeah.
right?
What was that trade?
Was it not a trade?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe it was a. No, let me just pull it up. I
That
can't
was from
quite
Buffalo.
remember. The trade was traded from the Buffalo Sabres to the Florida Panthers for Devin Levi and a first-round pick in the 2022 draft that became Yuri Kulich, who has played 9 games and scored 1 goal.
Like if Levi comes around,
Yeah, he's got to come around a lot.
right? But like you gave up a 50-goal scorer.
Yeah, second overall
Like,
pick that they had there.
Second overall pick.
Yep.
You never thought in a million years that guy would be a 40 or 50-goal scorer.
And just put him in the right place, and he really has come into his own.
Like whatever, at the end of the day, it's just a bad trade.
Yep.
But that's hindsight. We can all do it. We can all look here and say that guy's no good. That guy will never do this. And then lo and behold, he does it.
I actually do.
I feel like shame.
I actually do think that the Kadri one is on that list. Like for Kerfoot and Barry.
Yeah. I think Kadri was doomed in Toronto the moment they signed Tavares.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, what was the Thornton trade?
To San Jose.
Yeah. What did they get for him?
They had like 3 or 4 pieces.
It was traded from the Boston Bruins to San Jose Sharks for Wayne Primo, Brad Stewart, and Marco Sturm.
Yeah.
That's up there. That is certainly up there.
Yeah.
All right. This is a question that we've got a lot about actually about Sid in trades, and it said should Sid be trading pushing for a trade to Colorado to have a chance to play with his buddy Nate, probably play for one last cup. Like he signed the contract.
The ship sailed.
It did. So he signed that 2-year extension after this year. Yeah. It's just he's never leaving. He's going to be on a 10-game under 500 team every year for the next 3.
Listen, sports is crazy, and I don't ever want to get in and never say never. But
And that's from Keith in Winnipeg, by the way. Thank you for that text.
the decision needed to be made earlier. It needed to be made this summer if there was any chance. Like, who outside of maybe Kyle Dubas and a few other in that organization thought that Pittsburgh still had a chance to take another run at anything?
Yeah.
So please tell me that they're intelligent enough to say, Sid, we're going to sign you for 2 years. It's going to be tough, but help us. And I guess he did.
Yeah.
I guess he did.
Yeah.
He's Mario. In so many ways, he's Mario.
I know.
Where it's like, I'm built to win. I don't go on social media. And I'm going to end my career with one uniform.
But, you just look at him over his career. Has there been a more competitive guy? It's just hard to imagine him just wallowing away. Like, they're not going to be better next year.
I don't want to see Sid in another uniform.
No.
I don't.
Even if it's in Colorado or somewhere else winning a cup?
I'm conflicted here. I'm conflicted, but I don't want to see Sid like Wayne his last few years, where I'm like, I can't even remember him in St. Louis, to be honest with you. And I played against him in a playoff series.
The saddest part about his memory in St. Louis is the most memorable thing is Stevie Y stripping him and then him going bar down in that double OT 0-0 slap shot from the point. So
on a goalie that I put in net, John Casey.
What do you mean?
Well, I fell on Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr was out, and then Yzerman rips that shot over Casey.
So he just does the shoulder thing. That's one of the, and they had that great angle from behind the net.
And every St. Louis Blue fan has never let me forget that.
I would imagine so. This is from Kevin in Elmira, Ontario. Which Canadian team will make it the furthest in the playoffs this year?
I'm watching Quinn Hughes last night. Once again, control a game.
He's unreal.
Like I got to watch Brian Leach do it in New York. And when I'm watching Hughes on that blue line dictate pace of play, I'm thinking there's a lot he can do with the hockey club to take it far. And that the plus of the goalie playing well, specialty teams, guy getting hot, but he's the first guy I think about right now. I look at Edmonton and I'm like, you're not going anywhere with that blue line. You have problems. Quinn Hughes.
They have problems on that decor.
Okay. Bouchard struggled the other night.
Yeah. Mightily. And I look at that, it's a conversation, I look at every mock Four Nations face-off thing, and they're all penciling him in there. I'm like,
I like Josh Morrissey in Winnipeg. I do like him.
For sure.
But he can't do nobody can do what Hughes can do in Vancouver.
Yeah, I completely agree. So then this is a perfect follow-up to that. Should Quinn Hughes be in the Hart conversation?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Pretty easy one. Here's one for you.
Very easy.
This is random, but hey, Nick, what was your favorite cereal while playing for the Centennials from Justin? Do you have any idea what that means?
Yeah, that could be a Justin that I lived with.
Okay.
I don't know.
And what was the?
I don't know. What did I eat, Justin? Like, I don't know what I had this morning for breakfast. You're asking me something that happened 40 years ago.
Yeah.
That was with extra peppers. Not a Frosted Flake guy. Not a. I don't know.
Nope, no idea.
Maybe he's just pulling my leg a little bit on that one.
Boys, Gretzky played in the conference finals in New York in '97 versus Philadelphia. He was a big reason the Rangers got there. Have a nice weekend. Love the show. Steve from Dundas. So that's a response to us talking about him bouncing around. But like when you close your eyes, I guess you still would say Oilers. But I was too young, right? So
Oilers.
For me,
just Oilers.
For
me,
the
height, in the like.
I still think if I close my eyes, the first thing I see, because I was a kid, I still think Rangers.
You do, hey?
I do, yeah. Because I wasn't
it's a generational thing.
Like I remember how big of a deal his last game was, and like it was a nationally broadcast event, and him using every different stick and the whole pomp and circumstance of it. And he got an assist in that game. I remember. Maybe went to OT. Yager score the overtime winner? Anyways, there you go.
Yeah.
Final over-under for JR's speech. Love the interview, Jeremy from Weaver.
Over under on 6.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Over.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Over. I'll be disappointed if
Totally.
it's not.
Here's a good one. Will Ovi retire once he breaks Gretzky's record?
I don't think so. No, I think he's. I think he's wants 1,000.
1,000.
Yes.
No way.
I'm telling you, that's him.
Oh my God.
That's him.
So we had a little conversation about this today in the room.
He wants to play like he.
But you don't think there's any world where like he wants to just get this over with? That's why he's lighting it up, and then he can go back and play for SKA
No.
Moscow or whatever.
We've watched over 800 goals. We've watched the way he celebrated like it's his first one.
You're right.
You do not. There's no faking that emotion after he scores a goal. It's his drug.
Yeah, you're right.
So this guy, if he's feeling good, he's gonna go for 1,000.
1,000 is insane. Like that's
what's the record? 894.
Yeah, and
What is that for him? He thinks he can do it in 2 more years, which would take him to what? 41?
Yeah, I don't know.
42?
Just to me, at some point, this has to break down. At some point, this has to stop looking like
We've been
this.
saying that for 4 years.
But no, he hasn't been 39 for 4 years, Kippy. Like at some point,
I'm past like thinking there's logic to the way he's built or the way he looks or acts or scores goals. I'm beyond that. So he can still fire a stinking puck.
Yeah, he can shoot it. He can shoot it.
Shoot it in the net.
Is there a more important cup for anyone than that one cup that he has in 17, 18?
It's a life changer.
Think about how you'd be talked about without that.
But it's a life changer for those guys, you know? And outside of that, and we'll hear it this weekend with Jeremy Roenick, that they need he needs a Hall of Fame because it's the closest substitute to missing out on a Stanley Cup.
Weber too, right?
Weber too.
I mean, he got the gold medals for Canada, which is obviously great, but not the cup.
No, not the cup.
Not the cup.
That's the hole that will never be filled in their life.
And you got one.
Stars align, baby, sometimes. Stars align.
I love it. All right.
So we're going to see you down there?
Yeah, I'm heading down. If you see me, say hello. I'm going to be sitting in the lower bowl.
If I happen to pass you and ignore you, is that fine. Okay too?
Totally
because
fine.
I
don't even want to ride the subway down together.
I hang with like big wheels down there.
And listen, Kyper, we see each other for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm perfectly fine with you big wheeling me, buddy.
I'm almost scared that if we were beside each other, it'd be like, hey, Sammy, who's that guy beside you?
Shut up.
Yes.
It would be like that no sound, not here.
But I've created a monster in a very short period of time with you.
4 years, created a monster, bud. Anyways,
all
that's
right.
Great.
So our thanks to Nazem Kadri in the first hour, JD Bunkis.
Seems like a while ago.
And Doug MacLean.
Got a lot of messages.
Friday, buddy.
Got a lot of messages about the Kadri interview already. If you didn't get it, go to our Leafs Hour, listen to it. It was excellent stuff, candid, great. Get his book, Dreamer.
And please subscribe to us on YouTube. We got a ton of viewers always there. We thank you for your support. And if you get a chance, give us a rating and review on any of your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great, safe weekend, everybody. Enjoy the Hall of Fame night, and we're back on Monday. The Real Kyper and Bourne Show.